Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, Show 16. In our last episode, we talked about some of the biggest productivity drains. Today, we're chatting with guest and lifestyle builder, Sarah Guilliot. Welcome to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast, where we bring you real-life strategies on starting and growing a business and finding financial freedom without sacrificing the life you have with your loved ones. We are your hosts, Tom and Ariana Sylvester, and we are married, we're parents, and we're serial entrepreneurs. This podcast is for those who want more out of life. We'll show you how to take the vision you have and create the business that will help you achieve it. Join us as we share practical steps, real-life stories, and help you become a lifestyle builder. Sarah is a professional web designer who left her corporate job as a UX architect to bring the power of Photoshop mockups to Etsy shops. She helps custom drinkware shops showcase their hard-to-photograph products online with her ready-made mockups and an online course called Photoshop Mockup Mastery. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Lifestyle Builders Podcast. And we've got our special guest, Sarah G here, and I'm just going to say her last name because I think it's really cool, Guilliot.
That is how you say it.
It's like guillotine.
I know,
That's
I
what she tells
always
people,
wondered,
and I love that story because she's probably so tired of people mispronouncing her name, but it's a genius way to explain it. And Sarah here, you heard a little bit about what she does back in her bio that I introduced you to earlier. But let's hear from you, Sarah. Tell us a little bit about how you got started, how you decided to jump into business, and what it's been like on that journey to become a lifestyle builder.
Sure, yeah. So I started my business out on Etsy a couple of years ago, and it has transformed a lot since then. Not a couple of years, actually.
Don't they all?
Yeah. Well, my couple of years is actually like 4 years ago. So it's changed a lot over that time. And I've also at the same time was working at my 9-to-5, which as of, what was it, last week now?
I think it was last week, right?
So I'm free.
Great.
Yes. So.
Oh, and for people listening, this may have been a couple weeks ago, actually.
Yeah.
Depending on when the episode comes out.
That's true. Time is fluid. So I am now a full-time business owner and feeling all of those fears and excitement. But so my niche basically is that I sell and teach about how to use Photoshop mockups. And my audience is a particular kind of Etsy seller who sells customized drinkware. Mm-hmm. And I create these files that help them to create the images that go in their shop. So because drinkware is it's a lot hard to take pictures of because a lot of it is reflective and shiny. And so you might need a lot of equipment and time and skill and experience to get decent images for your shop. So I help them by creating these Photoshop files that make it really easy to create those images. Plus I have an online course too if they would like to learn how to do it from scratch. But the pre-made files I sell on Etsy and Creative Market and SoFontsy. So that's it, basically.
I love that. You've niched yourself right down into a very interesting space. Like, it's so cool to hear about that, though, because often you hear the more vague people like, oh, I serve this. And it's like, a large group of people. But you have figured out like this cool little group that you can help, and you're helping them grow their business, but you're also growing your business, which is really cool. And it helps you to know, I think it's a lot of us struggle with finding our ideal customers, mm-hmm. and you know where they are and what they're doing. So you've got that kind of, I don't even know, you've got that little like special ahead of the crowd because you've got it figured out.
Yeah, there's a lot of different like mock-up sellers out there. So I was worried about it at first. I'm like, it's not niche enough because you see tons of mock-ups of like desktop computers and screen people want to put images of their site into. And even glassware is out there. But I started getting to know people in the Etsy community who are using these die cutting machines to cut vinyl. And I saw that they were struggling to take pictures. And so it's kind of like a niche within a niche, basically.
Well, I was going to say, and that's one of the things we always tell people is, you might have an idea for what you do, and it sounds like your idea has evolved, but it's talking to those customers and really seeing where the need is and then, really going that way. So it sounds like you've done that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and talk to us a little bit about how did you kind of get started and then decide on this ultimate goal of being able to leave your job? Like, where did that kind of come about? Was that originally when you started it 4 years ago, or was it something that evolved as you were growing the business?
Yeah, no, right from the beginning.
Right from the start. I can say that now.
Forget all this corporate jobs. Yeah, I don't know, as a designer and an artist, developing in my career in corporate America, basically, I had always had to give up a lot of like the creative control, and it just felt like I was, there was always somebody else who was deciding what my designs needed to look like, and like 10,000 people with opinions about what it needed to look like. And I'm like, it would be great if I could just make things, and if people like them, they would buy them. And if they wouldn't, it would just take that stress off, and I could just enjoy doing what I do, which is just making digital products. And I knew I didn't want to go the physical route because I don't like dealing with shipping and all of that stuff. So
just cut all that out. No, I love that though. I think that's resonates with a lot of the creatives out there, because it is hard to be in a job that's basically stifling your creativity and for a long period of time. And it's nice that entrepreneurship not only gives you that outlet to be able to do something that you love, but it also gives you the option of eventually growing that to the point where you get to choose what your life looks like. And I think that's what a lot of us are going for.
Yeah, for sure. And over that 4-year period, I felt like I didn't find this niche till like, I don't know, a year or two ago. And then I didn't fully commit to it till about 6 or 8 months ago. That's when I really got serious. And I was like, man, because my husband actually last year, or maybe it's been a year and a half now, he got sick. He had a stroke and he got cancer, and he's cancer free and stroke's gone. And I was pregnant at the time.
Oh my goodness.
And we were just going through a lot. And I was like, I don't want to be on my deathbed thinking that I didn't go all in on this. So I was like, I'm setting a date. He's healthy now. Like, it's time to just really, really go for it.
Man, I got goosebumps. That's a lot of, that's a lot of feelings all at once. Oh my goodness. I think that's an important point though. A lot of us do need that something to happen to kind of give us that catalyst to really go 100% in on entrepreneurship, because it is kind of scary. It's a scary step to take, to be like, well, I'm serious now. I'm going for this and I'm going to make it happen. Whereas if it's just your little side hustle where you're like, oh, this is something I do and it makes me a little bit of money. It's two different things, diving in head first and being 100% go for it.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's tell everyone a little bit about what you wanted to talk about today on the podcast. I know you came in with some topics that we wanted to chat on and some struggles you were having on deciding things in your business. So let everyone know what those are.
Yeah. So basically math and spreadsheets and I are not friends. And I've talked with you guys about this before. Yeah, where they are Tom's friend, they're also my husband's friend, but
Perfect.
struggle for me. So I feel like to really, as I'm getting serious about my business, I need to have a really clear understanding of the state of things right now, now that I've quit. And we had sort of done the math in our heads to figure out how we could survive, off of savings and stuff. I've given myself a year. But now that I'm in it, I'm like, okay, so I need to be able to figure out what payments and things are coming up over the next months, and how do I predict how well I'm going to do in the different places that I sell things. And like, I have all these ideas about like a membership and, really focusing on YouTube or totally honing in on my Etsy shop, but I don't know how to decide which one of those makes the most sense to focus on. And sometimes when I do pick, I'm like, yeah, it's going to be YouTube. Then I'm like in it, and then I'm like, oh no, but Etsy's over there waiting for me. And, if I start that now, then that can be building over this time that I'm focused on YouTube. And I just, like, it's so hard to choose.
Yes. You are talking about a problem that many entrepreneurs have.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to say, this comes up for just about everybody.
Including this guy over here sometimes.
That's what entrepreneurs are.
I will say, he's much better now than 10 years ago when everything started. And I'm sure some of that is me being the reality checker at certain points. And then some of that's just him being able to overcome his shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. All right. So I'm excited to dive in because as you said, this is a common problem that a lot of people run into. And, I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff here and a lot of stuff that will help you, especially because when you have the job, it's like that's the security. And you know that even if the business isn't working, you're going to be okay. But once you make that shift, it's like, okay, now if I wasn't as serious before, I got to get serious now. So the first question I have is when you guys ran the numbers, how did you figure out, did you just set the year as kind of the testing time frame, or did you figure out that, financially you'll be okay for the next year and that's going to be your runway?
Okay, so when I say we ran the numbers, I basically asked my husband and but
Okay.
we were looking at a month and how much money I bring in.
Yep.
And then I looked at clever ways we could cut down on costs.
Perfect.
Love it.
Down. And then we were like, how much does his income cover, like in terms of mortgage and food and, school stuff? And we ended up at this number because I wanted to stay in daycare, my baby, $4,000 with us still cutting down all those other things. But this 4,000 would help us, move along as we go. This is take home 4,000.
Okay. Yeah, and the reason I ask is because oftentimes people don't really run the numbers and then they're not really sure like how long do they have or how fast do they have to build their business. And basically like what we do, and we have it in Lifestyle Builders, we have a runway calculator. And it basically says, here's your income, here's your significant other's income, here's your monthly expenses, here's your savings, and then it kind of figures that out. So it sounds like you guys have done that, which is great. And you've looked at how do we reduce our expenses during that time so that we don't have to make as much.
And just to point it out, I guess technically when we're talking about that $4,000 a month number that you and your husband came up with, that's what we normally would refer to as the freedom number. So you've already left your job, so you've already attained freedom. Yay! Now we're working on you and your runway, and not only hitting those goals before the runway ends, but also having your business start to generate you more income so that your runway extends itself. So that means obviously you're not going to go from whatever amount you're at right now to $4,000 a month like that, because it's going to take a little time. It's going to build gradually. But as you're building gradually, that extra income that you can bring home from your business is going to tack on to that savings that you have, which will then also elongate your runway a little bit. So if we can get you to start generating some income every month, now that's going to start adding up. And not only are you building your business to that growth that you need, but now you're adding a couple months on to the end of your runway.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we look at how do we predict or how do we make sure that we're hitting what we want to, we always start with really the end, like what the goals are. So if the goals for the end of the year are to be at $4,000 a month, that's our target. And what we'll do is we'll work backwards from there to say, well, what are the incremental goals or what are the milestones that will help us get there? So at $4,000 for the end of the year, you might say, okay, my goal for the next 90 days is I want to be bringing in $1,000 a month, right? So you can figure out what that right number is for you. And then really what we'll do is we'll start saying, okay, so how are we going to generate that $1,000 a month? So we can take a look at your products and say, do you have one product? Do you have multiple products?
Well, the files that I sell, I don't know if you would count that as that's like one type of product that I sell, but I have about 35 of them, and I'm selling them on 3 different marketplaces. And then I have like my big signature course, which is its own separate thing that I'm also selling.
Okay. I would say for your ease, you can probably just put that in 2 buckets. Yep. So it's either your signature course or the combination of all the files.
And so what's the average price on the course and the files?
The course is $197.
Okay.
And then the files, probably the average is $15 a piece.
Okay. So what's cool once we go through this process is we know right now, let's say 90 days from now, you want to make $1,000 a month. So that is 4 of your courses, or I can't do the math in my head. However many of the files, or some combination of those 2.
Right.
Right. So let's say that we're going to sell 2 of the courses, that's going to be the target, 2 of the courses a month, and then the remainder, let's say, I don't know, 50.
Well, I know
whatever it is.
100 of the files would be $1,500.
That's what I was going to say. So about 50 of the files would be our target.
Okay.
So then what we do from there is say, okay, have you been able to sell both of those today so far?
Yeah, well, I did sell some spots in the course in January. This is when I had started to ramp up, on an old funnel that I had.
Okay.
But I was also working on a new funnel with my coach that I'm not working with her anymore, but I'm still like finalizing that funnel. So that funnel is turned off. Gotcha. So I sold 4 spots in January, and then I turned off the funnel. So I haven't sold anything since then. And I'm like working on the sales page right now.
Okay. So what we're going to look at is say, okay, we want to sell 2 of those a month. So how do people buy that? So are they going to go through the funnel to buy that?
Yes.
Okay. And then how do we get them into the funnel? What have you done so far to get those people in there?
So the entry point, like the main entry point of the funnel, is a 5-day course I have on my website. And so I have, links to that in the navigation. I talk about it in some of my YouTube videos, and I like mention it lots of different places. It's inside my Facebook group. I have a Facebook group that has like almost, I think, around 800 people in it right now. So I'm trying to figure out ways to be more intentional in there about driving them into that.
Okay.
I haven't gotten to that yet. Right now I just have like a pinned post where there's like a link.
Hey,
okay.
It's there. It's better than not having it there at all.
Yeah. And so what we're working back towards is then to figure out what is the couple key activities that we can focus on so that we can make those sales, so that we can predict and hit that goal. Mm-hmm. So do you know like how many people on average have to come to the website or to that landing page in order to get somebody to opt in?
I don't.
Okay. So what I'm thinking about, and we can dive in a little bit more after this, is ultimately if we can figure out if I can get 10 people on the landing page, and then out of those 10 people, 5 end up opting in, and then out of that I make 1 sale. Now we can basically reverse engineer those numbers and say I have to get 20 people to the landing page, and likely I'm going to make 2 sales on the back end. Mm-hmm. So now your whole goal for, what you're focusing on each day and each week is saying, how do I get 20 people to that opt-in page? And then you can start saying, well, I've got my group, so I'm going to run some stuff in there. I've got, the other places that it is. And then what that really does is it focuses you on those key activities that are directly going to tie to you making those sales.
Got it.
Does that make sense? I know we went through some numbers.
Yeah.
This guy.
Well, but the reason, I'll let Ariane jump in, but the reason we go through that is instead of having to look at 100 different numbers, we want to get it down to 1. Yeah. And if we can work through some of these, your 1 number is, I got to get 20 people to opt in. So every day you can check in and say, how am I doing on my 20 people? And if you find the one thing that's working, you're going to do more of that.
Yeah, I guess the tricky part right now is since I'm in the middle of redoing that funnel, I'm starting from scratch. So I have pretty good, like I can look and convert. I have ConvertKit. Mm-hmm. I can look in there and figure out how many people are converting from landing on the page where I offer the 5-day course and then signing up.
Yep.
Gotcha.
But I won't have those numbers yet of them going through the sign up and then going through the sales sequence, sure. That part, converting.
Yep. And so what I would do is based on what you're seeing, make an estimate. Because the problem when we don't put some sort of estimate out there is, let's say you get 10 people going through there. Is that good or bad? Well, I'm not really sure. If you thought that you were going to get 5 and you got 10, perfect, you doubled it. But if you got 10 and you thought you were going to get 50, you're well short. So at least having a starting point will then allow you to adjust it along the way.
Right. I'm going to jump in with 2 things. First, I know when we had chatted before, we just talked about the course, but when it comes to the files, you said every time you did a video on YouTube, you knew you got sales from that on your files. So we had talked about going back and looking at, okay, I had so many views on my YouTube video, and then I made so many sales off of that video, to see if you can get an average number of sales each time you post a video. So same sort of thing. If you post 1 video and you get 5 file sales off of that, then you can put into your key actions as, I need to post a video every single week and then keep up with those numbers to see, okay, am I keeping up with my average number of sales every time I post? Is my number going down? Is my number going up? So that you can start adjusting that content of whatever you're putting out, and either do more of it if the number keeps going up, or change something if the number goes down or doesn't get any bigger.
Yeah.
And then the second one I wanted to mention is you said you have links to it in all different places. Do you use WordPress by chance?
No, I'm on Squarespace.
You're on Squarespace. Okay. Can you use Bitly on Squarespace? Do you know?
Probably.
Yeah,
Okay. Doing some Bitly links and having them for each different location that you put that link, because you can go back and track all of those. So if you've got your link on YouTube, you've got your link in your Facebook group, you've got your link on your website, you've got your link 4 other places, if you go and make 7 different Bitly links and put them in each of those locations, you can then see where all those clicks are coming from. So that'll give you a better idea of, okay, I've got 50 clicks total coming through to the landing page. 20 of them are coming from YouTube. So now you know a large majority of that traffic is coming from YouTube. Do more there. If you know a ton are coming from your Facebook group, you can do more there to promote. If it's coming from your email list, do more there. So it gives you just a better idea of where are people coming and clicking through to get to those landing pages in the first place.
Okay, so I have one Bitly link just because I was trying to make the link to the 5-day course, which is a funnel, easy for people to get to, which is like Better Etsy, bit.ly.betteretsy. So with your idea, it would be like, instead it would say Better Etsy YT for YouTube, and I would go and put those in. And then,
or you could number them. Some people just number them, and they don't need to know what the numbers mean, but you would know on the back end, number 1 goes to YouTube, number 2 goes to your Facebook group, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I hadn't used Bitly as a tool to actually see traffic. It was just a tool for me to make a short link.
It is also, it's a great tool for making short links too, but it's a great tool for tracking where people are coming from. And I had never used anything like that before, but Tom always has pretty links in our WordPress site. And I thought it was just to make your links look pretty, like, oh, tomandariana.com/YouTube, and it takes people directly to YouTube. Great. But then he was like, there's reporting on there. And I said, there is? And he goes and clicks on it. He's like, oh my gosh, I can see where people are coming from. This is genius. So yes, now we use pretty links for everything, especially if we're going to be sharing stuff out and we want to see like where the most people came from.
Yep.
Nice. Good one.
All right. So shifting back to the numbers, because that's what I love to do. When we set those 90-day goals, 2 of the things we like to focus on, you could have, 3 to 5 goals. But we always say, what is the revenue we want to bring in for our business? And then you made the good distinction earlier that you want to be taking home 4,000 at the end of the year. So sometimes people get confused where they're like, oh, I need to make 4,000, and they think that's their business. But in order to actually bring home 4,000, we've got to make more than that, right? Okay. So have you heard or read the book Profit First?
I started to listen to it on audiobook a couple years ago, but then I haven't gotten through it because I'm still spending more than I'm making, and I wasn't sure if I could even begin using it.
Okay, so this will be a great entry into that. So one of the things that they have in Profit First is this target allocation percentage. And basically that's saying, if you think of the money coming into your business in buckets, there's like 4 main ones. So there's the profit that you're paying yourself from owning the business. There's the owner's pay that you're paying yourself from working on the business. There's the taxes that you have. And then there's the operating expenses, basically the money you spend in your business. So if we use some of these target allocation percentages, essentially to make 4,000 that you're bringing home, your business likely needs to bring 8,000 in. Just a quick doubling of the math. And then we can so that's by the end of the year though. So we'll break that down. So then
this is also assuming that you're spending the allocated amount on your expenses. But if you can figure out how to lower your expenses and also raise your sales, then that can change some of those buckets a little bit. So don't freak out. Most people, if you're following Profit First exactly and you're using those allocations, then yes, it would be 50% of whatever you make, you're bringing home. So it's easy to double it.
Yeah. So let's use an easy example. We'll go with $1,000. So if you're going to bring $1,000 home personally a month, that means that your business likely needs to bring $2,000 in. And the way that's going to work is half of that money you'll bring home, but then you're going to take, I don't know why I'm doing numbers, but you're going to take a portion of that and pay yourself in profit. You're going to take 15% of that and put it away for taxes. So at the end of the year, you don't owe the government money. And then you're going to take 30% and be able to spend. So by implementing that, one, you're going to be able to figure out, okay, how much do I likely need to sell? And then what you can start to see is, am I spending the right amount in the right places? So if your expenses are, say, 50%, and the target is to get to 30%, that's a good opportunity to now say, okay, are there expenses that I can cut back on? Because anything I cut back on is then going to mean more money I get to take home and less that I potentially have to sell. Mm-hmm. So basically the conjunction of doing those goals and then using Profit First, at least those numbers, to get an idea of how much you need to sell will then help you figure out, okay, how many of the courses and how many of the files do I need to sell?
Got it. Okay.
Does that make sense?
And yeah. I know you had talked about before too, just getting a handle on your business finances, because some things, a lot of entrepreneurs have this problem too. Some things you have a monthly subscription, so you're paying every month. Some things you pay per year, but they're all at different times throughout the year. So how do you get a handle on, okay, how much am I actually spending? And I'm going to keep it really simple for this one. One of the easiest ways that we do that is to literally list out anything we're spending money on in the business on a piece of paper to start, and then go down and mark if they're monthly or yearly for the subscription or for the tool, the software. So then you've got a list of, okay, here's all the tools and all the things that I pay for out of my business. And then here's all the ones split out that are monthly versus annual subscriptions, or if you're paying and buying actual tools, you write them down and then go and actually put the prices next to them. So then you can figure out for the full year, what are you spending based on all the annual subscriptions and based on all the monthly subscriptions added up, based on any other randoms, like maybe you bought a one-time course, maybe you went to a conference and you want to put that in your expenses. List everything out and you'll have a bird's eye view of, okay, I spent this much in expenses over the year. Okay. Now you can start to go back and analyze each of those items. Do you need every single tool on the list? Do you need every single software on the list? Are there things that you purchase that you're maybe using from, well, I guess for us, we have multiple businesses. So we usually split costs between all three businesses if we use one tool for all of them. But if there's something you use personally and in your business, you can split costs between your personal and your business so that it's kind of taking the stress off of both. Did I miss anything?
Well, so given that you're not a numbers person, that might be a little bit overwhelming. So the key thing is you can do it month by month. So like you already said, you're using ConvertKit. Do you pay monthly or did you pay for the year?
Monthly.
Okay. So we already know that you've got $29 a month in your expenses, right? So as Ariana said, you can go down by each of the things that you pay for, and then you can say, okay, right now I'm paying $200 a month in expenses. And then so what we do every month is we sit down and we look at our budget and basically say, okay, last month we thought our expenses were going to be $200, but we actually looked at it and they were actually $300 because we spent extra on something. So then we say, was that right? And we've got to adjust our starting budget for our expenses next month to $300, or did we just not control our spending and maybe Tom went and found a great book and went crazy or something?
He does that a lot. I see books all the time at Amazon. I'm like, son of a.
It's like Christmas every day here. But so what that then allows you to do is you get a picture of how much money is coming in and how much is going out as a starting point. And then when you're planning each month, you say, okay, last month we wanted to make 1,000. This month we want to make maybe 2,000. So then you can start to say, okay, this portion is going to go to expenses. This portion is going to go to the other thing. And I've got to sell this many courses or whatever to make all the numbers work. So once you know what you need to do, then it's a little bit easier to then focus on, okay, these are those key actions that we talked about before.
Okay.
Yeah, that's coming from a numbers guy. Me being the non-numbers person, I get the same anxiety like you about like, oh, well, I know I have this much a month coming out, but then like there's all these random things. So I do like doing the monthly kind of like, let's space it out. Here's what I know I pay per month. If it changes, we'll adjust and see what kind of came out of nowhere. But I do also like to have the list of the yearly things that I pay for.
I agree 100%.
Just so I know like, okay, well, I know normally I spend $200 a month, but next month we've got our Dropbox subscription coming out. So we know that's going to be the extra $100 or whatever. And then, 2 months from then we've got, I don't even remember what else we paid for the year. Oh, he signed up for ConvertKit for the year, of course, because he just can't pass up a good deal. Well, we're going to keep using it. Why don't we just get the year? Okay. So we know our yearly one's going to come out. So yeah, just keeping almost like a master list for yourself, but not to make it too complicated, then break things down into the monthly so that you're only looking at the months and how much you're spending to see if it's on track for what you kind of put out there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we went through a lot there. Any questions or clarification on that stuff?
No, I mean, that all sounds great. I guess just when I hang up and I'm all by myself here and I'm like, okay, what do I work on now? Like I have this funnel, right, that I'm in the middle of making, which is driving to this course, which is the highest ticket item that I sell.
Mm-hmm.
But I just quit and I need to get a handle on these numbers. Like, yep. What should I do first?
So first action item is 90 days from now, list out what you want your business to be doing, right? So you can go through and part of it is that you're not alone when you jump off this call because you're in Lifestyle Builders. So we're there to help you along the way.
True.
And you have your husband who is a numbers guy.
Yep. Well, so the first thing is, especially because you're going for the year, let's list out what that needs to look like at the end of the year. Right. Yeah. So we know that by the end of the year, you want to be bringing $4,000 a month home. So that means your business needs to be bringing $8,000 a month in. And if we just break that down in the next 90 days, if we break that down evenly, that means your business needs to be making $2,000 a month 90 days from now. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't feel good and it feels like you want to maybe shoot a little bit lower to start, you could say $1,000. But whatever that number is, let's figure out what it is for 90 days. And then we can work backwards to then figure out, okay, what are the key things that you need to do to make that happen? One of the key things will likely be finishing that funnel and starting to move traffic back through there so you can sell the courses. Mm-hmm. But do you see how when you lay the goals out, then the question of, well, what do I need to do becomes a lot clearer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
okay.
That's really my key for not going crazy, because once we've done that, Ariana always comes back and says, okay, I know you have all these great ideas, but is that going to get us to the goal? And then it's a very clear yes or no. And, there's no more like fighting or whatever about that.
What? Fighting?
For fighting, I guess, like, somebody would have to win and you would win like every time. So.
Yes, it usually is me. I'm victorious. So let's talk about, I know you had just a couple other ideas that you were throwing around. And now that Tom's laid out, like, let's do just the first 90 days. I know a lot of people struggle with, like, I have all these ideas. When do I put my ideas in place? Yeah. This is the beauty of it. You map out that first 90 days and everything you're going to do from now until then is going to be going towards those goals that you've just laid out for yourself. I want to get my numbers figured out and I want my business to be bringing home that amount. So I'm going to finish this funnel and I'm going to start driving people through it. And I'm going to track how many people I'm driving through so I know where they're coming from. Then after that next 90 days, if you have some of these ideas that you're thinking about trying, you can, I don't want to say put them on there, but you can kind of think through how some of those are going to get you to your larger goal. Are some of those going to be a piece of that larger goal of your business bringing home your business making $8,000 a month so that you can bring home $4,000? One of the things you mentioned, I know, was potentially starting like a membership or like a subscription-based program. Mm-hmm. Now, that is something that we normally go the route of test that out to see if your customers want to buy into something like that. Mm-hmm. So if that's on your mind, you can start to listen to what people are saying, listen to the struggles and the pain points that they're having, so that as you're working on your goals that you've set during this next 90 days, you're gathering some information around this next idea. And come 90 days, say you hit your goals and you're making the 1,000 a month or the 2,000 a month in your business. Now you can say, all right, I'm at a good point. I want to move forward onto the next idea that I have and see if it's going to be worth my time and test it out. So now you can start doing some market research, reaching out to some of your customers, talking to them and kind of seeing like, what would a membership look like? How do you want to show up in there? What do they want in this membership? And then what kind of price point are you looking at? Because if you were to launch one, that is something that can bring your business, what's the word I'm looking for? Recurring.
Income.
There's an S one that I was going to say, and apparently my brain just dropped it off the face of the planet. Yeah, so it'll start bringing you some recurring income, which then ultimately helps your business overall because you're not always having to get quite so many sales if you have this stable amount of recurring income. So I'm not going to say don't think about it, because I know as an entrepreneur, it's hard not to have all those ideas.
I'm going to say don't think about it. At least for right now, because you already have your products that you're selling now. So the first focus is get those products selling. And then to your point, in the future, because right now, basically when you start each month, you're starting from scratch and you've got to make all those sales, right?
Oh, there you are.
Sorry, I froze.
Okay. Yep. So right now, when you start each month, you're basically starting from scratch, right? You've got $0 coming in and you've got to go and sell. So the first thing we do is focus on making those sales. And then from there, what we're going to do is now say, instead of having to start from zero every month, what we're going to do is actually start putting some recurring revenue in place. So instead of starting from zero, maybe you're starting from $500 that you already have in recurring revenue. So that'll come down the line, but immediately what we want to focus on is just getting sales of the products you have today.
Yeah. So you're going to ultimately put those ideas on the back burner until you've hit your first 90 days. And then when you've hit your first 90 days, you're going to assess kind of how you did. Did I meet my goal? If yes, then you move forward and you can look at some of those ideas you have in the back burner to say, all right, I think this next one is going to be the best one to grow even further. And you can move forward with that idea. The key is not to be trying to do too many things at once. So focus on the first 90. If everything's going great and you're doing really well, then you start to introduce some of the other fun stuff that you've been thinking of. But for now, just keep track of them as they come to you. I know Shiny Object is hard to get rid of completely, but give yourself a board, a whiteboard, use Evernote, something. Keep track of them so you know where they are. But for now, you're going to focus on your first 90-day goals.
That sounds good. That's what I needed to hear, because I was aiming headlong toward that membership, because I had it in my head that, okay, I'm building up some audience, so I should do the membership, in X number of days, but I need to get through I need to hit that 2,000 first.
Yep. And what I like to do is, I call it planting the seed. So you're going to spend...
We don't actually have gardens, but he loves planting.
I know. Well, so you're going to spend most of your effort on making sales today and making that work, but you're going to spend maybe 5% prepping for the next thing. So if you think the next thing is going to be a membership, start talking to your existing members or putting some polls out and say, hey, if I were to offer something like this, that's lower cost and whatever, what would you guys want it to be? What would you want included in that? And then even looking at, what are some of the pains that maybe aren't being solved with the existing products? So you can start testing a little bit of that out and maybe even building a wait list. So that way, when you then go to really focus on that, you've already got to start. You're not starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like the wait list idea a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we'll end up doing that a lot on our website. We'll say, hey, we're thinking about doing this in the future. If you're interested in hearing more, join the wait list. And then when they join, we give them a quick survey so that we can better understand what they're looking for. And then we have a starting point when we go to build that product.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you have a current audience, you have a current Facebook group, you've got your current email list. So as Tom said, as you're doing business and doing all the things you need to be doing, it's not to say you can't be sending out surveys to them or, open-ended question emails to say, hey, what else would you like to see? What gaps are there that you'd love to see me put a program out for or put another product out for, and just see what people are saying and, kind of stash that information away for yourself so that, as Tom said, as you start to develop out your next set of things, you've already got kind of a running start because you've been talking to people, you've been listening to what they're saying, and the wheels have been turning and you're keeping track of like all this juicy goodness that's going on in your head.
Love it.
All right. So with that, what's the one action that you're going to take away from this call?
Well, I'm going to write down those numbers for the year and identify, like you said, the 2,000. I'm going to write down the other milestones too, and then just figure out how to get to that 2,000 over the next 90 days.
Yeah.
Perfect. And you do have access to Plan with Purpose within Lifestyle Builders, which will guide you on how to do that. And we also did a goal planning session at the end of last year, and that was 4 parts, and we recorded that for all the members. So you can also go through that, and it'll help you go from the goals to the key actions and some of the other stuff we talked about.
Yeah, that was our goal mapping. So we actually we showed people how to map it all out, that 90 days, and then breaking it down into like, okay, now next month, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, I'm excited to dig into that.
Okay. All right, Sarah, where can people find you if they want to come hang out in your Facebook group or find out more about you and all the awesome products you sell?
Yeah, well, if there are any custom drinkware sellers in your audience, I don't know if there
Maybe there will be after this.
There should be. Yeah, if I share about you in my group, which I will do. Yeah, so I have a free Facebook group called Mock-Ups for Drinkware Makers that they can search for. And the easiest place to go is over to sarahdesign.com. That's Sarah with an H, because you can find links to all my stuff there, to my YouTube and to my creative marketing, Etsy, and all the good stuff.
Perfect. All right, everyone, it's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and Lifestyle Builders. And I want to do a special thank you to Sarah, one of our current Lifestyle Builders members, for coming on and being a guest on the show and just sharing her real story for us and her real business and allowing everyone that's listening to share in with that with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is always a journey, and oftentimes we don't hear about kind of the ups and downs and struggles, but it's something that we all go through. So as always, remember that it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye. Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Do you want real-time guidance and support from seasoned entrepreneurs who really care about your results? If you're nodding your head or awkwardly shouting yes in public somewhere, then we invite you to join Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. You can find out more at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Your life, your business, your way. Join Family Entrepreneur Life. Join Family Entrepreneur.